Hi, I'm Josh and welcome to day 5 of Vlogmas. Today I'm going to be giving you some of my most anticipated releases of 2021. So, to clarify, this list is only releases from 2021, so not backlists, which will be a different list altogether. And 2, it's not all the books that I'm interested in. It's just the ones that I would consider the most interested. So interested that I'm probably going to pre-order all of these, or at least most of them. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get going. I have it in a sort of order of authors I'm most familiar with to new authors as we go through this. So about 10 or 15 of them. First few are series. The first one being Across the Green Grass Fields by Seanan McGuire, book 6 of the Wayward Children series. If you don't know, the Wayward Children series, like a more mature Chronicles of Narnia, we have these kids who go into this magical world. Each world is unique to them. And then something happens, it causes them to come back to our world. The problem is our world isn't really right for them. Their world is these other worlds that are really made for them. Not necessarily made for them, but they feel more at home. Honestly, it's something to do with identity. I think there's actually some imagery here when it comes to certain things about understanding yourself and where you belong and how you fit into the world. Actually, just mind blown. I never really thought about it like that, but that's the gist of it. And this is just the next story. It's different from Narnia because every world is different and every kid has their own world. And every story is pretty unique. And it's so much fun to be had there. I will never stop loving Wayward Children series. Or at least I pray I don't. I actually plan on rereading all 5 of them leading up to it. It's my first time rereading them, and this series is probably my favorite series of all time, which has been like a feeling that's been sort of festering inside of me for a while, and I'm ready to sort of finally test that and see if it stands up on a second go around. Next up is Fugitive Telemetry, book 6 of the Murderbot Diaries. The Murderbot Diaries is a futuristic world that's almost like a space opera, but not quite that intense. It's much more tame in the information it's getting, the world building it's giving you. It's just enough to make it really interesting and fun, but still a light read, as opposed to really epic reads that you might have in some of the other space operas, like the winner of the Hugo Awards this year. And this is about a robot who basically is intelligent, and he breaks his governor module in the first book, which basically means he doesn't have any rules he has to abide by. But the problem is he's not necessarily a monster. He just doesn't want to be around people because he doesn't understand them. He's kind of asocial, and it's, oh, forgive me, I'm saying he, but they do not get identified as a he or a she. And in fact, I had one commenter back in July mention how they always interpreted Murderbot as being not binary, which I don't know if that's what was intended, but it definitely fits better, I think, in the context of the story. I tend to project, even though I know I shouldn't be doing that. So they just want to be alone and consume media because that's what they want to do. It's a fun and easy series. It's just absolutely amazing. I love it. I reread the first 4 leading up to the full-length novel that was released as book 5. And this one goes back to the novella length, though. So, highly recommend checking out that one, Murderbot Diaries, at least the first one. It's a lot of fun, and you don't have to read all of them to get it. I'm realizing now this is basically going to be part anticipated reads, part recommendation video. But the next one is book 3 of the Trickster trilogy, Return of the Trickster by Eden Robinson. The Trickster series is about sort of a coming-of-age story about this young indigenous boy who lives in Calgary, somewhere in Canada, I don't remember, and he finds out that he is somehow connected to this trickster god, and I guess the title probably gives it away, but I won't say anything more about it. But follows his life as he's sort of going through high school, but also realizing he has these weird connections to things going on. And the story is really fun because while it is focused on a teen, I think it's not quite a YA book because it's very mature. It also deals with serious content, like there's a lot of drug abuse and I guess issues with his family. And I think part of that is just supposed to be reflecting certain issues that Eden Robinson sees affecting the indigenous community that she's a part of. So in that way, it's a really complex set of books that are just really easy and fun to read that tackle some serious issues while exposing us to, I think, a type of mythology that is not well known, at least not for me. I don't think indigenous mythology is something that's explored very often. That's what I mean to say. And this is the final of the trilogy, which I should also mention the trilogy has been adapted on CBC. So if you just Google Trickster CBC, you can probably find it. I'm not sure there's a way to watch it in the States yet, but it's definitely worth checking out. It was actually a pretty good series. I haven't finished it yet, but the first few episodes were pretty good. Next up is Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. This is their 3rd book. I'm not sure what it's about, but honestly, it's one of those books I don't really care what it's about because I love their work, at least I have so far, and I'm really excited to be reading another book by them. I've read one, and I've read enough to recognize they're someone that I want to read everything they write. The world building and the topic they tackle range from race to queerness and gender. It's just a range of things that I just love seeing in books. This book, for those who are interested, Vern, 7 months pregnant and desperate to escape the strict religious compound where she was raised, flees for the shelter of the woods. There, she gives birth to twins and plans to raise them far from the influence of the outside world. But even in the forest, Vern is a haunted woman, forced to fight back against the community that refuses to let her go. She unleashes incredible brutality, far beyond what a person should be capable of, her body racked by inexplicable and uncanny changes. To understand her metamorphosis and to protect her small family, Vern has to face the past, and more troubling, the future outside the woods. Finding the truth will mean uncovering the secrets of the compound she fled, but also the violent history in America that produced it. Oh, it sounds to me that we have sort of like a monster-esque fantasy sci-fi story that deals with probably race and also just general issues pertaining to America. And so I'm actually really excited for this. It's my first time reading that. Okay, I'm gonna rate it in. The next one is The Mirror Season by Anna Marie McLemore. I've only read one of their books, and it was so beautiful. One of my favorites of the year, probably. And it's Blanca Roja. But their books, at least the one that I read, was very fantastical and dealt with similar issues of gender and queerness, and is a take on a fairy tale. And I'm really excited to read more of their books, one of which is going to be the newest one, The Mirror Season. I just watched a video by Ashley from Bookish Well, and she talked about this book and about being two different people who go to a party and they're raped, and one remembers, one doesn't, and one tries to hide the other. That's all I know about it. I know it's magical realism, fantasy, and queerness. Personally, that's enough for me, and I think that's enough of a background to give you without having to read more of the synopsis here. Next up is Switch by A.S. King, a book so new that it has yet to get a cover. In fact, I've heard no one talk about this book, and I'm shocked. It's A.S. King. I've read several of the books now, and probably more than halfway through their backlog of books, but I definitely want to read this newest one. I'm not sure if I pre-ordered it, but I would like to read it this year if I can. What is it about? Not that I care, but a surreal and timely novel about isolation and human connection from Michael L. Prince Award winner A.S. King. True Beck is a teenage girl from Pennsylvania who lives in a world that has become trapped in a fold in time and space. Oh God, I like that. Where real time has stopped, but humanity continues to mark artificial time based on a website called newclock.com, where the E is spelled with a 3. True lives in the house that has a switch in its center. No one knows what the switch controls, but her father continually builds larger and larger boxes around the switch. True lives in box 7. True leaves the box through a true-shaped hole to go to school, where she pays no attention to the new solution time curriculum. Okay, that's enough. I think we've got enough. I have no idea what's going on here, and I love it so much. It's just such absurdist, surrealist situation. This is why I love A.S. King, and I am so psyched for this. I love time as well, so little timey-wimey shit going on is exactly what I want. This is really exciting. I really love this. Okay, next up is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a new novella from her that is coming out in January. I don't think I got an e-arc for it, but I did pre-order it. She's the adopted daughter of the Angel of Death. Beware of her, mind her, death guards her like one of its own. And there's this picture of this like robot that's sort of like a plant. It reminds me of that scene from Annihilation, but I think that's enough. Again, this is one that Ashley from Bookish Realm talked about. And they talked about her being the daughter of death. And that, I guess, is an intriguing premise. That's all I really need to know going into it. It's Nnedi Okorafor, so that's really all we should need to know. Next up is Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. And this is, I believe, his first novel since the publication of Never Let Me Go, which was I think a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And that book was sort of a futuristic dystopian sci-fi novel, and I get the impression this is a similar book. The genres are listed as science fiction, literary fiction, contemporary. Klara and the Sun, the first novel by this author, since he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, yep, that was right, tells the story of Clara, an artificial friend with an outstanding observational qualities, who from her place in the store watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse, and of those who passed on the street outside. She remains hopeful that a customer will soon choose her. Clara and the Sun is a thrilling book that offers a new look at our changing world told through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator, and one that explores the fundamental question, what does it mean to love? Honestly, I need to check and see what the other backlist books of this author, because I loved the last book. I gave it full 5 stars. It was such a great book. It was a weird dystopian future class sort of discussion of class, and this seems like a similar idea where you're looking at societal commentary going on in this really nuanced book. And so I'm really excited to be getting into it, which I know I'm saying about everything, but I really am. Especially since I've only read one of his books, I think this will be really good. I don't think I pre-ordered it, but I can say pretty confidently I'm almost certainly going to read this when it comes out. Next up is a book I just heard about from, I think, the newest anticipated release video from Lala, from Books and Lala, which we talked about Mona Awad's new book, All's Well. And this is one that is the sequel, not the sequel, the follow-up, the next book after Bunny. And I really enjoyed Bunny, the tone, the basic setup. It was just like what kind of weird for me. I am excited to be getting onto this. I don't know what it's about. I guess I'll tell you what it's about, but it says horror, fiction, adult, mystery, thriller. Miranda's life is a waking nightmare. The accident that ended her burgeoning, I'm illiterate, acting career left her with excruciating chronic back pain, a failed marriage, and deepening dependence on painkillers. And now she's on the verge of losing her job as a college theater director, determined to put on Shakespeare's All's Well That Ends Well, the play that promised and cost her everything. She faces a mutinous cast, hell-bent on staging Macbeth instead. Miranda sees her chance at redemption slip through her fingers. This doesn't sound quite as weird, but I'm still intrigued, and I want to read more by this author, so I'm going to. Plus, I'm not like a huge fan of Shakespeare, but I do love Shakespeare retellings, because they're more accessible than actual Shakespeare, so I'm excited for that aspect of the story. Next up is Unti on writing. This does not have a cover, but this is coming out in September of next year from Roxane Gay, and this is a book that is apparently on writing, and I want to read this one because I've fallen in love with Roxane Gay's writing. I've read several of her books now, and I want to get through all of them, and I really want to read this one too. I'm not necessarily an aspiring writer, but I am curious to see her thoughts. I mean, I do write for like research, and so I'm curious how that might apply there, and if I ever want to do outside of that. Like, I have had ideas about, like, as a science person, to write about science that I study, like in a more, what do you call it? I don't know, whatever Neil deGrasse Tyson does, where he talks to people that don't do science. There's a word for that, but I'm blanking for some reason. But like, I've thought about that, but I also don't think I have the skills to write like that. So I have like a moderate interest here. It's also like far future imaginations going on. Okay, now we're getting on to more authors that I never read before, but I really want to read from because I know of them from other areas. And this is Susan Page's Madam Speaker, Nancy Pelosi and the Lessons of Power. I've reordered this, and I'm really excited for this because I don't know personally, but I know of Susan Page. She was the debate moderator of the vice presidential debates this year, and I heard her previously on various NPR podcasts, and I really like her ability to sort of just communicate the politics. Like, she's a good political news journalist, and I've got one book by her already that I want to read, which is about Barbara Bush, and this is one I'm really excited for, even more than that one, because I've wanted to learn more about Nancy Pelosi for a while. Like, she's someone that is so hated, and yet, I mean, I look at her as someone who has achieved a lot. I recognize she's not perfect, but I think I still have an immense amount of respect for her and for what she's been able to achieve, both in her career, but also during her career, like while in office. And I won't get into that right now. And I think Susan Page is the kind of person, based off the information I've consumed, that she's put out. I get the impression that she is a facts-based journalist. She's not going to be here to give us the memoir or the biography that Nancy Pelosi wants. It's just going to be laying the facts. And I'm really intrigued to learn about her past, her path to where she is now. Another political person here, and that is Stacey Abrams, who is apparently a romance writer. And I don't read romance, so I'm not really going to venture out, but she has a new book coming out, a thriller. Stacey Abrams has a thriller coming out called While Justice Sleeps. Avery, a brilliant young law clerk, and the legendary Justice Howard Wine is doing her best to hold her life together, excelling in an arduous job with the court while dealing with a troubled family. When the shocking news breaks that Justice Wine, the cantankerous swing vote on many current high-profile cases, has slipped into a coma, Avery's life turns upside down. She's immediately notified that Justice Wayne has left instructions for her to serve as his legal guardian and power of attorney. Plunged into an explosive role she never anticipated, Avery finds that Justice Wayne had been secretly researching one of the most controversial cases before the court, a proposed merger between America Biotech. This is too much. It's a legal thriller, and this is a huge synopsis. I want to read it because it's Stacey Abrams, and it's a thriller, and it's also a political thriller, I think. So all these things, like my favorite things, just mesh together, and I love meshing things together. So that's that. You know what I think? I think this is thriller, mystery thriller. Wouldn't it be crazy if Books and Lala added that to her list of books to read for the Literally Dead Book Club? I mean, why would she? She's not American, but still. That'd be awesome. This is a long video, but I'm realizing that I'm loving what I'm talking about, so that's okay. Next up, the final 2 books here. The next one is A Master Djinn by P. Djeli Clark, and this is a continuation of a series. I'm not sure how to pronounce the title. Previous 2 books were the first one was a short story, and then the second one was this book, The Haunting of Tram 15. I don't think that they're necessary to read the next one, but they're short, so I thought it would be easy enough to read them. And I really want to read this because it's sort of a science fiction, steampunk, maybe fantasy type story, and really it's the genre that gets me, and it's the praise I have heard for this author this year from things like this book, as well as Ring Shout, which is one I really want to read, what came out this year. I suppose I'm just like, I don't know why. I don't have any hard evidence to say this author I'm gonna love. I just feel like it's sort of like a case with like River Solomon, someone who I approach and I think I'm going to absolutely adore, and then I do. At least I'm hoping it's another case of that. Someone who's new to me that I think just be really, really good if I gave them a shot. So I'm going head first into that series. Next up is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. And this is another author who I've never read, but I've heard about. And this is the same author who did the sort of retelling of Alice in Wonderland and I think Peter Pan. But it's like a dark, sadistic take on those. And this one I don't think is like a retelling. Premise and the fact that the information I know about the author has me really intrigued. It goes as follows. A woman trapped on a mountain attempts to survive more than one kind of monster in a dread-inducing horror novel from the national best-selling author Christina Henry. Oh, that wasn't much of a synopsis, but that was the gist of it. I do want to know more, so let's keep going. Maddie can't remember a time before she and William lived alone on a mountain together. She must never make him upset. But when Maddie discovers that the mutilated body of a fox in the woods, she realizes that they're not alone after all. There's something in the woods that wasn't there before, something that makes strange cries in the night, something with sharp teeth and claws. God, this is good. I'm really enjoying this. When 3 strangers appear on the mountaintop looking for the creature in the woods, Maddie knows their presence will anger William. Terrible things happen when William is angry. This is a horror thriller fiction adult, which it doesn't say sci-fi or fantasy, so I tend to spoil these things looking at the genre, but I don't expect it to be fantastical, but I would love to see that it is. Granted, it's published in April, so maybe no one's read it. No, there are some reviews. But anyways, I think it's the fact that I know the author, but also the synopsis is really intriguing. I love sort of monster stories and isolated stories. I just think it'd be really good. So yes, please. And that's that. Those were all of my most anticipated reads of 2021. I know there were others out there, but these are the ones that get me really excited. And that's that. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your most anticipated release is for next year. And as always, have a great day and a happy holiday. Goodbye.